Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We're taking you to Hawaii for a special look at what it's like to raise cattle in our 50th state. You'll hear firsthand from Hawaii cattle producers and learn about the state's history of producing beef cattle.
Now, from the Denver headquarters of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, it's NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. When people think of Hawaii, they may think of things like sandy beaches, surfing, and luau's. Those things are all part of the appeal of the Aloha state. But what's often overlooked is a long and rich tradition of raising cattle. So on this special episode, we're going to sit down with some leaders of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council to talk about their efforts to tell their state's beef story. Let's take a look. Here on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, from time to time we put the spotlight on great or unique things that are happening within state cattle organizations across the country. Today, we turn our attention to Hawaii and the work of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Joining me now is Dr. Lisa Wood, a veterinarian and president of the Hawaii Cattlemen's, and Dale Sandlin, the managing director of the organization. Welcome both of you to our show. I guess to begin with, Dale, you both took on a pretty big project in putting together a 5-part video series teaching people about the beef industry in Hawaii. Why did you guys do that?
Sure, we wanted to show the care and commitment that our producers have and the daily pride that they put into their product every single chance they get. So what we were able to do is work with the Hawaii Department of Agriculture to develop a contract that would help us promote beef, and do that not only through this 5-part series, but also gave us the ability to create 2 new websites, one for the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council and the Hawaii Beef Industry Council, and then also to help us revitalize our Hawaii Beef Ambassador program so that they could be able to tell their story in their own way and really make that a priority.
You know, Hawaii is a fascinating place, but not some place that most people think of when they think of the beef industry. Lisa, what were some of the things you were trying to communicate to people relative to the Hawaiian beef cattle industry through this video?
I think one of the things we really wanted to be sure that we honored was the great history of the beef industry in Hawaii. In our first video series that talks about our legacy, the people in that film do a wonderful job of explaining how cattle came to Hawaii and how the ranching industry grew out of that. One of the most important things that happened in Hawaii occurred in about 1850, and that was the Great Mahele. It was a land division act that allowed for the first time private land ownership. And at that point, we moved from small subsistence farming to larger agrarian operations like sugarcane and pine. And with those large businesses came the need for labor. So many of our waves of immigration began at that time, and they came first from the Asian countries, from China and Japan. We have immigrants from Korea. We also have European immigrants, people from Portugal, Germany. And as these people started to come in and join our workforce, many of them came to work on the plantations. But our cattle industry was also slowly starting to develop, and the people of Hawaii were very, very welcoming. And there was this very unique sharing of cultural differences, so that in the saddle house, they would speak Hawaiian, but you would also hear the sounds of the ukulele and the guitar. And in the tack room, there could be equipment that had either Spanish or German origin. So there was this wonderful blending of all these cultures that allowed the birth of a new culture that we call now paniolo.
That is absolutely fascinating. You know, it's so important for all of us to tell the real story of beef production. Since this is a 5-part video series in Hawaii, we're going to share one segment at a time with our Cattlemen to Cattlemen viewers. And we'll ask the two of you to share insights with us each time we do. So let's begin our trip to Hawaii cattle country with a look at the history of raising cattle in the islands.
From Mauka to Makai, Hawaii is filled with amazing sights. What is sometimes overlooked is the long, rich tradition of raising cattle in Hawaii. In fact, Hawaii's ranches produce a significant number of high-quality cattle, and beef production is an important economic contributor in the state. Likewise, the men and women who raise cattle and produce beef today play an important role in protecting Hawaii's natural resources, where cattle have been raised for centuries. Those men and women are also ensuring the rich history of the industry is preserved so that it may be passed on to future generations. Hawaii's cowboys, known as paniolo, are at the center of this effort to preserve the past and to pass along the lessons learned from a lifetime on the land.
In those days, the paniolo, my tutu man used to say, you breed your own cattle, you breed your own horse, you breed your own cowboys. So paniolo to us is more than just a culture, it's a lifetime.
My great-grandpa, they worked on the ranch. I was raised on the ranch, and my grandfather, my dad, but they worked for Puawa Ranch, neighbor from Puck Ranch right across from here. And they've been cowboys all their life, and then I guess I just followed the tradition.
It's tough to put into words sometimes what the paniolo culture means. But if you've been around it and you've experienced it, and you've particularly seen older generations before you demonstrate what it means, there's a work ethic involved with it which is unequaled. They'll get up any hour of the day, any kind of weather. They'll go out and get the job done. They'll do it with good humor. They'll take a beating sometimes, physically. They'll be resourceful. You can throw a cowboy in a tough situation, he's going to figure out a solution. Without a lot of fancy tools and technology, he'll figure it out. There's that spirit to it. And they can be dead tired and aching and soaking wet, and they got a smile on their face, and they're still joking on their way home.
The paniolo culture is fascinating. Captain George Vancouver brought the first cows here in 1793, and the vaqueros were brought in 1832 to teach the Hawaiians how to raise cattle. So the paniolo tradition goes all the way back to 1832. And it's a unique blend of love and interest for cattle and land with the Hawaiian culture. And there is no history of Hawaii without the paniolo history.
Cattle have played an important role in the history of Hawaii as one of the longest enduring agricultural industries in Hawaii.
The first introduction was in 1793, and he made a second trip back with cattle. This second one included a bull, at least one bull. I think Kamehameha is pretty astute, he saw the value of this animal as being a real source of protein.
In order to control and protect the cattle, large stone fences and corrals were constructed to create pastures. Today, some of these walls still exist on the islands, demonstrating the sheer size and scale of the early days of cattle raising in the islands. Despite changes in markets and production methods, the paniolo remains an important part of the process, and today's cattlemen and women take pride in passing along the paniolo ways of the past to future generations.
And I know that now and forever we have a job to do, and that is to be identified in this Hawaiian community. If you study the history, paniolo made history. So to me, that's something to get excited about. That's something that I'd like my kids to learn about.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll examine the cattle production cycle for producers in Hawaii and how it differs from operations on the mainland. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It started with a man, a plot of land, and a few head of cattle. That man, your great-grandfather. You've got his name and his legacy too. It's what you fight to live up to and work to leave behind. With innovation, integrity, and passion that runs as deep as yours, we'll be there. For your operation, for your future, for you. This is why Merck Animal Health works.
Saddle up and make your way to Denver, Colorado for the 2019 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting. This is your chance to stay up to date on beef industry trends and policies. Meet with industry leaders and your fellow cattlemen and women. Plus, you'll get insights on hot topics at the Issues Forums. Mark your calendar for the 2019 Cattle Industry Summer Business Meeting, July 29th to August 1st in Denver. Details at ncba.org.
One of the great strengths of the cattle industry in America is our diversity. Cattle are raised in nearly every state and in vastly different landscapes and conditions. But there's nowhere cattle are raised that's quite like Hawaii. And joining me now from Hawaii Cattlemen's Council are Dr. Lisa Wood and Dale Sandlin. You know, we talked earlier about the 5-part video series that you all created, and I guess I would start with you, Lisa. What was the purpose? What are some of the goals that you had in mind in creating this series about the cattle industry in Hawaii?
We wanted to be able to highlight some of the unique features of our industry. As you said, many people don't even realize that we've been growing cattle in Hawaii for over 200 years. We had the opportunity to visit several of our ranches. We have ranches scattered across 5 major islands, and we chose to focus on 5 specific areas. One is the unique history that we have. The second is our production cycle, which is again quite a bit different from the mainland. The third was the health and well-being of our animals, it's our environmental stewardship, and the last was our vision for the future of Hawaii's cattle industry.
And Dale, my understanding is you are sharing these online with consumers and everyone. What kind of reception have you gotten so far?
Well, overwhelmingly supportive up to now. We're currently featuring those videos on our websites as well as on our YouTube channel. We're looking at making a bigger splash with that, but it's been well received, and it's from the feedback that we've heard, it's been that it's a true, honest representation of our industry, and it's allowing for both us to inform on our concerns that we have and the challenges that we face, but also in the quality and commitment that we do put into our product each and every day.
We're going to see a clip from the video regarding the production cycle and how it differs in Hawaii. Dr. Wood, would you tell us just a little bit about what is different about producing cattle in Hawaii than the mainland?
One of the first things is that we have a year-round growing season.
Okay.
And that means we don't have to put up feed the way some of our mainland partners do, but it does also mean that we're at the mercy of Mother Nature, and she has a lot of influence over how our grass grows. The second thing is we are surrounded by water, so transportation is a critical issue for us, not only for receiving goods, but also getting our product to market. And lastly, the diversity of Hawaii. We have a huge diversity in the way where cattle are managed in our state. In some ranches, they go all the way from sea level up to 8,000 feet. We have one rancher that is in full view of an active volcano, so you can imagine the unique challenges that we might face.
Yeah. That's absolutely fascinating. And now, let's head back to Hawaii to learn more about how producers raise cattle there.
There's nothing like raising cattle in Hawaii. There are ranches and grazing lands on nearly all of the islands, and for the men and women who care for their animals and their land each day, their job is filled with challenges and rewards. Hawaii's landscape and climate is incredibly varied, and that variety directly impacts how they care for cows, raise calves, and manage the state's natural resources.
Oh gosh, Hawaii is a whole different bird from most any place on the mainland in that you can go from extremely arid climate to extremely wet within 10, 15, 20 miles. So, and within a real close proximity, not very many miles. So it creates a whole different variety of situations and pluses and minuses on how you run your operation.
There's a lot of extreme contrasts, and so it's important that the cattle are able to adapt. Our cattle really have to be adaptable from sea level all the way up to 8,000 foot elevation, and from dry desert country to more wet rainforest type area.
My dad said we got this piece of ground because no one else wanted it, and it's kind of the truth. It's one of the toughest, most rugged pieces of real estate that a cattle operations run on in this state. But oh, what do you got to say? You love it because it's not an easy piece of country to work. The animals have to want to work with you to make it work because you can't cowboy this country. It's rough, the lava is relentless, unforgiving. If you think you're just going to run out there and do something, I've fallen in a hole. My horse, my dog, everything just fell right in a lava tube. So the country's non-forgiving and you have to work with it. And I'm serious, when it's raining, cattle don't want to work, livestock don't want to work. But a beautiful morning like this, and everything wants to work.
Hawaii ranchers are experts in raising cows and calves. Some ranches finish their cattle on grass and market their beef to local stores and restaurants. Others ship their calves to the mainland for finishing in feedlots. Either way, all of these operations are dependent on managing grass to keep their animals healthy and growing while ensuring that their natural resources are maintained.
We have a huge variance in our microclimates and our annual precipitation in a very short relative distance. So it gives us the ability with intensive grazing to adjust very much to where you are on the mountain and to your pasture and weather conditions.
That really is the only advantage we have for ranching in Hawaii, is that we can grow grass year-round. And so in order to do so, though, we do have to have rainfall year-round. Mother Nature, when she gives it to us, she's pretty generous, and when she decides not to give it to us, it can be pretty tough business. But for the most part, managing that resource, that's our primary responsibility. That's what we focus on. We do a lot of rotational grazing. We try to manage the forages so that we have an optimal amount of cover, basically try to prevent the weeds from coming in as well.
One thing with handling our cattle with intensive grazing, we're moving them. Some herds will move every day, some will move every other day, just depending on where they are and the size of the paddocks they're in. So our cattle are really used to having people around, and they're most times they're waiting for you at the gate. They'll tell you when it's time to move.
You know, you graze them one way for a cow-calf operation, another for stockers, and then you got to really get intense when you're finishing cattle. And every little hiccup can mean a big gap in gains. We think we're headed in the right direction, and we just got to just keep our eye on the ball and make sure that we continue to improve at every chance that we can.
Again, you know, grazing is a year-round occurrence when we have the opportunity. And so managing that forage resource is key to our success. So we do some intensive grazing where we move the animals fairly quickly, and every couple of days we'll be moving these animals to a different pasture, and that allows the grass to recover quicker.
Ranchers work to match their cattle breed to their landscape and climate, and they manage the genetics of their herd so their cows have the ability to thrive and produce the highest quality calves.
Mama cow that you just drove past would weigh 1,300 to 1,500 pounds. Just a mile that way, a cow can't weigh more than 900 pounds. Just, that's how diverse this country is. The soil out there is thin, relatively new, eruptions and dust blown in from other eruptions. Where the land can support a bigger cow is there's pockets of deep soil, more mature soil types.
You know, because we have such a diversity of climate and altitude, the Angus Charolais cross, which has been more market-driven than environment-driven, has worked well for us here. I think because the cows and the bulls that we use are born here and are acclimated locally.
So we're looking out for the nutrition of that cow when she's pregnant. We're looking out for the nutrition for that cow and that calf when she has that calf at her side and is raising her up.
We basically run primarily Angus cows on the ranch, and we have 2 breeding seasons. We try to match it with the rainfall that comes throughout the year. So we have basically 2 production cycles going on all the time. We're primarily a cow-calf operation here, but we've been transitioning to raising more cattle for local beef production as well.
My vision for the future of ranching in Hawaii is a growing grass-fed or somewhat grass-fed beef program here. Most of the cattle are shipped out of state, and I certainly hope that we can develop the industry here in Hawaii where the cattle are kept here. It's more green, if you want to call it, but it's also something that would add to the food security of Hawaii. If we can develop infrastructure and demand in Hawaii to keep the cattle here, it'll be good for everyone.
Beef production in Hawaii has been one of the stable primary sources of agriculture. We've been a very resilient industry. There's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to be a large part of the food production. We see it actually increasing over the years. There is opportunity for us to do so. The forage resource, if we can take advantage of that, we can probably double our beef production for the state of Hawaii.
Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll examine how the stewardship efforts of Hawaii's cattle producers are helping to protect this beautiful paradise. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The elements can be relentless. Make sure they have respiratory protection to match.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that's where the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be in 2020. It's the biggest convention just for cattle producers in San Antonio, a city with an amazing history that's packed with great food and fun. You can't miss it. So make plans now for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in San Antonio, February 5th to the 7th. Find out more at ncba.org.
Joining us now to shed more light and truth about cattle on the land in Hawaii are Dr. Lisa Wood, a large animal veterinarian and president of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council, and the HCC Managing Director, Dale Sandlin. Welcome back to the show for both of you. You know, we talk a lot about environmental issues here in the United States. I can only imagine how much pressure you have in Hawaii in terms of the environment and land use. Tell us a little bit more about that, Dr. Wood.
Okay. I'm so glad that you asked, because in our mind, our cattlemen and women are first and foremost environmentalists. Our producers have long recognized the need to balance production and preservation of the resources that they're charged with. And I think there's a misconception that animal production and conservation exist in opposition to each other. We believe that our lands are best managed, are best utilized when production and conservation efforts work together in genuine partnership. We know that when we do this, our lands truly thrive. Our producers are able to utilize lands that are otherwise unproductive or inaccessible, they're able to convert low quality forage to meat and muscle and produce a high quality food source for humans. All these practices help to create a stronger ecosystem, more biodiversity, and a more resilient environment altogether.
That's fantastic. And Dale, what are some of the misconceptions you were trying to correct or messages you were trying to send as it relates to this video on how cattlemen are caring for the environment?
Sure. Well, we wanted to show that the ranchers are the original environmental stewards. These guys, men and women, are stewarding over a quarter of our state's land mass. They're the true boots on the ground, so to speak, of caring for the land, protecting our watersheds and those natural resources, in addition to growing grass and raising high quality, wholesome beef for our consumers. That's what we wanted to show in this video.
That's fantastic. And what kind of reaction have you been getting from Hawaii Cattlemen Association members?
It's been very positive. They're really appreciating the true diversity that we're showing here. Cattle production from across the state, not just focusing on particular islands or production practices, but showing how we're all working together to produce that high quality beef that we've all come to love.
That's fantastic. And now, let's make another trip to the Hawaiian Islands to get a first-hand look at environmental stewardship and care of the land on cattle ranches all across Hawaii.
For the men and women who lead Hawaii's cattle ranches, the land provides their livelihood every day. They work with all their natural resources to sustainably raise cattle and to be able to pass on their ranches to another generation.
If you're in our business, you have a responsibility to the land no matter who owns it. Your responsibilities to the next generation and to the generation that set you up there. And I think in our industry, you must love the land first, no matter who owns it.
I'd like people to understand that Hawaii beef producers really, first and foremost, are conscious and value the environment and how they manage the stewardship of the lands that they farm. They want to leave a legacy for their family and for their children of leaving the property better than when they got it in the first place. So first and foremost, we'd like them to understand that, and that ranching is good for the environment.
In my opinion, the ranchers that I work with are environmentalists. They see the long-term management of the land as a key need, and they have a lot of responsibility in that, and they take it seriously, and they work really closely with us to do both long-term conservation practices and also support the economic value of ranching in the long run.
I think that's really the story of all cattlemen throughout the country. They tend to be, whether they're large or small producers, they try to work well with Mother Nature. Again, she's the one that really dictates whether we're successful or not. And if we can work within what she gives us, we can get through the tough times and try and do well in the times that are better. It really is just finding that balance in terms of stewardship with the natural resources and our livestock.
Even as their primary focus is on providing the care their cattle need, ranchers must also ensure they are protecting the natural resources, the water, and the grass their cattle depend on. It's a focus that benefits not just the ranchers and Hawaii's beef production, but all those who believe in the value of open space in Hawaii.
So ranches in Hawaii and everywhere really provide to everyone else what we call ecosystem services. Folks don't realize it and they don't pay anything for it, but we provide all the things that they value in the environment on a daily basis. There's no one else that is doing that. So we are providing watershed, and we're providing the means to keep open green spaces, invasive species. We're through our management, we're fighting invasive species every day. Natural habitat preservation, critical habitat, all of these things are what people value, and we provide them for free to the general public.
The ranches serve as an important buffer area to our native forests. They're kind of a protective area below the forested belt. So They also serve an important role in maintaining our green space and our rural economy. The ranchers are some of my favorite partners to work with, and they're just really, really supportive of conservation in the long run.
This view plane here is an ecosystem services. If this were all to be developed, if this was condominiums and homes, for the most part, you don't have this vista, you don't have this view plane. An ecosystem service can be as simple as going down our ranch, Ho'okana Beach Road, looking out to the right and seeing open space, and looking Makai and seeing the ocean. And I'm telling you, that's why people come to Hawaii, and that is a service, and these are services that ranchers provide to the public.
Visit any of the islands in Hawaii, and it's clear there's plenty of competition for land use, whether it's development, tourism, or simply the idea that the land would be better off left untouched. But the simple facts are, cattle on the land provide clear benefits to the overall health of the environment, while also supporting the production of healthy, sustainable Hawaii beef for today and tomorrow.
Cattle on the land are a benefit among many reasons, keeping the fuel load down, maintaining fire controls, and for us, it's provide a livelihood and industry.
This, I don't know, industry, this lifestyle of ranching and agriculture and diversified agriculture, that combination is so important to, you know, us as just residents and community members of the community here, because it keeps Hawaii. You know, the world's changing, it's getting busier, and you know, it's important to the economy, I think, what we do, but also just to our spiritual well-being of having open space. It really is.
Hawaii's a fascinating place. It's a great place. Ranching has a huge role. The ranches basically are the stewards of about a quarter of the land mass in Hawaii. Not only provides economic opportunity, but the ecosystem services that ranches provide are invaluable for the environment as well as for the tourism industry. People come to Hawaii because of the natural beauty, and the ranches, the paniolos, are the ones that are the stewards of the beauty.
Coming up on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, more from the Aloha State as we examine the growing demand for local beef. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
At Case IH, we believe it's our job to provide you with solutions. That's why our Farmall and Maxim tractors, as well as our tools and attachments, are designed with you in mind. From mowing to baling to loading and more, we're here to help turn your to-dos into to-dones. At Case IH, we'll keep your days running smoothly with equipment that's durable, versatile, and highly efficient. No wonder farmers are more loyal to Case IH than any other brand. Visit your local dealer or go to caseih.com/livestock for more.
When it comes to the beef business, there's no room for gray area. The decisions being made in Washington affect the future of the beef industry, the livelihood of your fellow farmers and ranchers. Your National Cattlemen's Beef Association knows there's what benefits cattlemen and there's what doesn't. To us, it's as clear as black and white. Visit joinncba.org to learn more.
One of the things I genuinely treasure about my role with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is the opportunity to see other cattle operations around the country and hear from cattlemen and women about how they navigate raising cattle in their part of the world. There's amazing stories out there, and certainly one that's impressed me is what's happening with the Hawaii beef cattle industry. And joining me once again are Dr. Lisa Wood and Dale Sandlin, both working on behalf of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. You know, we've been talking about this 5-part video series that you all created about the Hawaii cattle industry. And one of the things that you mentioned in that series is local beef and the trend towards local beef. Can you tell us what's happening in Hawaii as it relates to that?
Sure. So we're seeing more cattle being produced for local consumption. We're also seeing high consumer demand and interest in the product, as well as expanding markets, and that's very promising signs for us. One of the biggest challenges we have, though, is our processing capacity. We're currently working on that, and we're hoping to make some progress in that area and actually see that processing capacity expand to meet our consumer demand.
And specifically, what kind of opportunities is that creating for Hawaii cattle producers?
Sure. One specific example is is the ability to get more locally produced beef into our school system to be served by our Department of Education. We're currently working with them on that. Just last month, beef was actually featured as the item of the month for all of the public schools in Hawaii, and that's huge for us. They are the largest restaurant in the state. They serve over 100,000 meals a day. And the cuts that they buy are the two cuts that we have the hardest time selling, and that's our ground beef and our stew meat. And so for us, we're seeing that as a win-win scenario for our industry and for the people of Hawaii.
And specifically, what are some of the messages you were trying to get across as it relates to locally grown and raised Hawaii beef in this video series?
Sure. Well, again, we wanted to show the rancher being able to give their story in their own words. This was an unscripted video for us, where we came in with some general questions, but allowed them to speak what was on their hearts and what was on their minds, and really share their story and their commitment to not only the cattle that they raise, but to the land and the water that they steward.
Do you have anything to add, Dr. Wood?
Our industry is really focused on helping Hawaii create a safe, secure, and sustainable food source. Those things are so important to us as an island state. And our ranchers, our cattle growers, are committed to increasing the pounds of quality local beef. We have wonderful partners in the restaurant industry, chefs and vendors who have also committed to keeping local beef on the shelves and on the menus. We really want our industry to contribute to Hawaii's agriculture in a meaningful way for many years to come.
Well, what you've done with this video is absolutely outstanding. I compliment you both, and it's certainly been a pleasure to be able to highlight that on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thank you both.
Thank you very, very much.
And now, let's go back one more time to Hawaii to get a taste of what's happening with the local beef movement in the Aloha state.
Hawaii is continually changing. The wind, the water, the volcanic activity, and the people all have an impact. And just as the landscape is ever changing, Hawaii's beef industry is also evolving. Long-standing traditions in cattle production remain, but there is a growing focus on raising cattle and producing beef to serve the needs of the people who live in and those who visit the islands.
I think the consumer wants to know the story behind the products that they're consuming, whether it's a head of lettuce or a T-bone steak. And when they know the story and they can put faces behind what they're having for dinner, that means something. It gives them a connection to the land that most consumers today have lost, but we're seeing a renewed interest of knowing of where their food comes from.
Grass-finished beef has gotten, it's very much in vogue here, just like anywhere. There's a huge push to have locally produced food available to the consumer, whether it's at the restaurant or the supermarket. And being that we're in the tropics and we can grow grass year-round, it's kind of a good fit to try to do our grass-finished product.
Although drought can sometimes limit cattle numbers and production, Hawaii is usually blessed with plentiful grass. That provides the opportunity to finish cattle on pasture, and that local grass-based product is becoming increasingly popular with Hawaii's chefs and restaurants.
Living in Waimea, we're surrounded by small ranchers and farmers, so to me it was like a no-brainer to start this because I could get the beef readily. It's available and it's a great product. I think the guests really love it. The guests to Hawaii are really blown away by the flavor of the grass-raised beef that is all from the Big Island here.
It's great to know these people, and it's really fun for us as chefs to interact with the ranchers, because number one, that's who's raising this food for us, and the connection is just so tight, you know, this thing, right? But it's also really cool because these are really cool guys, and they're living a completely different lifestyle than us. So it's, you know, we probably go to bed about the time that they go to work.
Well, I think that is the part that I am the most proudest of and have greatest pride, is that they truly like the product. It is a natural product. Chefs have actually said the cutability and the consistency and the quality, and I guess our pricing level seems to be really very attractive to them, and the eating quality for consumers, they are so willing to share that with us. It's so positive.
Beyond winning fans among chefs and at restaurants, locally raised Hawaii beef is also becoming more widely available in large and small grocery stores and supermarkets throughout the islands.
Well, people say, okay, local agriculture definitely helps the economy, right? We're able to employ more and more people, but most so here in Hawaii. I made it a point to realize that all of the farmers and whoever we deal with, it's one big family. You know, it's a matter of working together and try to improve the product they're able to sell. Try to get to a point where, you know, I'm helping them, and it creates only like a win-win type of situation. But this is what Hawaii is about, right? It's about relationship, it's about family.
We love our customers, and we strive to do everything we can to satisfy and delight them. So we love it when we hear from our customers that we have some of the largest selection of local grass-fed beef in the state, and some say some of the highest quality beef you can purchase from a grocery retailer in the state. And so we do all we can to satisfy and delight them, and it's great that they love the local beef program, and you can see it in the sales. Over 50% of all the beef we sell is local and local grass-fed.
For supermarket retailers, the beef raised in Hawaii meets a stringent set of quality and care standards known as the Global Animal Partnership, or GAP, before the product shows up at the meat counter.
It means that they can look at that package and see what certification is on there from a GAP standard, and they can see that yes, this animal came from an operation that really does focus on treating the animals well, treating their employees well, and treating their land well.
The value of the GAP certification plan allows ranchers to capture the value of the practices that they're already doing very well. Our cattle are certified in this GAP program to allow us to highlight the things that we're doing well and to let the customer know what we're doing on the ranch that helps make this the best product that we can create.
Across Hawaii, you'll find high-quality cattle cared for by dedicated, skilled cattlemen and women in an outstanding production environment. No doubt, an important part of the future for Hawaii's beef industry is meeting the needs and demands of local consumers.
It's important, I think, to support the industry, not only because of the wholesomeness of their product and the quality which they are seeing on the meat counter now from grass-fed beef locally, but also to have them understand that they are supporting our agricultural base here, which is so interconnected.
We have so much to offer here in Hawaii. We have a beautiful view, we have the beaches, we have the mountains, we have this beautiful landscape of Waimea, and people come here to Hawaii to relax and to enjoy life. And when we have a product that we are proud of, and it represents everything good about Hawaii, and that is what's exciting about our product being kept here locally.
Buying Hawaii raised beef is good on so many different levels. First, and most importantly, it tastes great. Second, it's good for you. Third, it's good for Hawaii because it helps perpetuate a lifestyle in Hawaii. And if we keep cattle ranches viable, then we keep large green pastures open. They don't have to turn into suburbs, so that's good for Hawaii. And all the people that are part of the paniolo lifestyle in that community. So it's good on multiple levels.
Still ahead, it's time for a visit with our good friend, Baxter Black. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
When we start to break down the economics of cattle production on pasture, pasture is the cheapest source of energy that we have for cattle production. Most estimates that you see from universities will say that grazing an animal costs about 45 cents per head per day, and that pales in comparison to the cost of stored feed for supporting that animal. So forages, they're the base of our operation. They're the key to our economic success. So any type of management that we implement that's going to improve that production, whether that's weed control or fertility, is going to help us save money at the end of the season. So when you're looking for weed control options for your pastures, go to rangeandpasture.com and find your local Corteva territory manager for more answers.
At Leachman Cattle, we're committed to building more profitable cattle. As a third-generation seed stock producer, our family has been in this business for over 80 years. Today, we have the best technology ever to build more profitable cattle. Our dollar profit index is a leader in the industry to help you balance all the traits that drive your bottom line. Give us a call or go to www.leachman to learn more.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
I like vegetarians. I like organic farmers. I like mule people, purebred breeders, healers, bankers, equine practitioners, county agents, cat lovers, and cowboy poets. I pick on them all, of course, because they all at one time or another hold their hand up in front of their face and dare me. Bet you can't hit my hand before I move it. The most frequent subject of my poems and stories is cowboys. Unfortunately, it's like shooting myself in the foot. I've probably written 100 stories about cowboys getting bucked off, run over, bit, kicked, stomped, throwed, butted, drugged, and keel-hauled for every one story about some environmentalist or animal rights lunatic. I get an email attack for branding my calves on a TV show, a critical letter, because I imply that farm salmon is as good for your heart as wild salmon. And these are all from people who take themselves quite seriously. But the cowboys, they just say, you know that story where the cow jumps in the pickup with the guy? That happened to me too. Which just goes to show, as Jim used to say, that you don't have to be humble to be humiliated. Now, how could you not like a vegetarian? It would be like not liking a monk or a Libertarian Party candidate or a dairyman raising Jersey cows. I mean, you gotta hand it to them. They're swimming upstream, living life the hard way. But I admire them because they have to be true believers. And how about organic farming? It's just some hard-working folks that have found a new niche. My world is plumb full of hard-working people, all trying to keep the wolf from the door and be a good neighbor. Sometimes life's hard, but it doesn't mean that you can't find a pothole of fun, or goofy, or silly, or kind, or caring, or poignant as you trudge along. Wade through them, friends, and track a little bit along the trail. Makes it easier for the rest of us. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We sure enjoy our visits with you each and every week. Now, don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional, and your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American Cattlemen since 1921.
When you're raising cattle, you might have to solve a dozen problems before you even get through your first cup of coffee. Still, one thing we don't ever have to worry about is implant performance.
We use Synvex Swingrass. It's the only true 200-day trim-blown acetate implant for grazing steers and heifers.
And you can actually drink this before it gets cold. Whew, that'll put hair on your chest.
Welcome back. If you're a viewer of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'd like to hear from you. If you have questions or comments or even a story idea for us, drop us an email and we may use them on a future show. Send us your thoughts at our email address. That's c2c@beef.org. Now it's time once again for legacy photos as we share with you some of the great shots submitted by our viewers all across the United States. Let's take a look. Want to see your photo on Cattlemen to Cattlemen? You can submit your favorite shots a couple of different ways. Either message them to us on the Cattlemen to Cattlemen Facebook page or email them to c2c@beef.org. Include your ranch or farm name and your hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.